Hey guys, welcome back. Houston Math Prep here. In this video, we're going to continue talking about operations with complex numbers, this time moving on to multiplication of complex numbers. So, we can think of complex numbers almost like a binomial because they have two terms. They have the real part and the imaginary part. So when we multiply two complex numbers, it is much like multiplying two binomials. So what we're going to do is distribute and then eventually combine like terms. So the first thing I'm going to do is distribute the 1 both to the 6 and the 3i of the second complex number. So 1 times 6 is going to give me 6 plus 1 times 3i is 3i. Now I'll do the same with my 2i. I'll multiply it or distribute it in to my second complex number. So 2i plus 6 gives me plus 12i, and 2i times 3i gives me 6i squared. Now remember, I squared is negative 1 because I is the square root of negative 1. So we're going to go ahead and make that replacement of I squared into negative 1. So that will be 6 plus 3i plus 12i plus 6 times negative 1. Now we can go ahead and combine like terms. So for real parts, I have 6, and 6 times negative 1 is negative 6. That makes 0. For 3i and 12i, or my imaginary parts, 3i plus 12i makes 15i. So my new complex number is 0 plus 15i, or just 15i. So when we multiply complex numbers, we distribute just like we do when we multiply two binomials. All right, let's do that one more time together. Here, let's look at some complex numbers that have rational coefficients. So if we have 3 plus root 2i and 4 plus 3 root 2i, we are going to do the same thing. We're first going to distribute here. So 3 times 4 gives me 12, plus 3 times 3 root 2i gives me 9 root 2i. Doing the same thing, distributing my root 2i, I have plus root 2i times 4 is 4 root 2i, and root 2i times 3 root 2i is 3 times root 2 squared times I squared. Okay, so let's work over here with this last term first. So just bringing down the rest of it, 3 plus 9 root 2i plus 4 root 2i. Over here, we of course have 3. Square root of 2 squared is just 2. And I squared, we know, is negative 1. So now we can go ahead and start combining like terms. We can combine 12 with, this is going to become negative 6. So 12 plus negative 6 is 6, plus, now combining 9 root 2i and 4 root 2i, that is 13 root 2i. So our result of multiplying the complex numbers 3 plus root 2i and 4 plus 3 root 2i is 6 plus 13 root 2i. All right, guys, that does it for this video on operations with complex numbers. We'll catch you in the next one.